Christy, you got your tablet, right?
No, I got my phone. My tablet's on. Well, it was on charge, but the charger's unplugged. Why do I need to have it? Should I have it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I'm a moderator. Hold on, I'll be there in a minute to get it.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Sibling Sleuths. We have here today. Let me just get my mic situated a little bit. But we're actually on time today. Yay! We're getting better at this whole podcast thing. My name is Susan, and we also have.
Christy, she'll be right back.
Okay, well, who are you? Introduce yourself.
Oh, my name's John, or known Johnny Blaze.
And we also have a new member to the team, Christy, who, even though she's my sister-in-law, all same, we're all siblings, so it's still siblings too. But anyway, we're here, and we're going to be talking about Columbine and what happened after. So last week, to catch you up, we talked about, what happened, and we went over a timeline. And yeah, so it's pretty awesome. Like we talked about a lot of different things. Today we're going to be talking about where did you all go? So yeah, last week we talked about, how things are different, like what it was like back then before Columbine happened in schools. And then we talked about what happened at Columbine. And while we wait for my co-host to get back, we'll just kind of sit there and, I hope you all had a good week. I know I did. The weather has been pretty good. It was pretty cold past couple of weeks. And, it's not now, so I was outside earlier today, and I went outside and saw the sun, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's great. Let me give a call to my co-host, and I will put you on starting soon. Hold on one moment, please. Hello, Browns fan. Welcome in. We actually started on time, and then, I don't know, it seems like we are doomed to be able to start on time. We were all here, and, yeah, so, is there an echo now, Browns fan? If you could let me know. Close. Okay, thank you. Okay. Christy, can you hear me? Okay, I cannot hear you, so give me 1 minute. Assign to source. Can you hear me now, Christy? For some reason, I cannot hear you.
There you are.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you and see you, dear.
Okay, I can't see John. He's in another room. Hold on. I'm going to remove that scene. I don't know what happened. Okay, let me get John, and I don't know what happened.
I'm still on.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
No, I gotta
maybe
find
not.
him. I gotta find him. I'll get him back on. Okay, that's you.
So to come.
And then we'll put him. Okay, there we go. You there, John?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're
Okay.
good to go.
Okay.
Okay, now
As we were talking before we got kicked.
chat. How is the sound? Is there an echo? If you could let us know, I'd appreciate it. Because apparently there was an echo. It's back.
Yeah, because I was in here twice.
Okay, well, did you take yourself off?
Yes. I'm only in here once.
Yeah, well, why?
One can hope.
Because apparently when you came back on, that's when the echo started showing up.
So Brittany is right. John did it.
Is the echo still there?
Yes.
No. Oh, it is?
According to chat, it is.
Hold on. Let me bring it up.
So I'd say, yeah, he said a
'Cause I
couple
had
minutes
someone
ago
watching
that
the stream for me, and yeah. And also Browns fan said that there's an echo. So do you
Browns
have
fan,
any kind of volume on?
Yeah, I know Browns fan.
I thought it was Dan, so that's why I asked. I was getting ready to ask. Come on, sissy.
Don't use government names over the internet.
What?
Don't use government names over the internet.
Government names?
Yeah, I know Browns fan. Oh, yeah, Browns fan 1990. That's my brother. Hold on. Don't use government names over the internet. No, I'm not echoing on there.
What?
Is Susan
Don't use
echoing? Is what she's
government names
asking.
over the internet. No, there's no echo. I'm listening to it now.
Okay.
Yeah, Browns fan 1990.
And we're all showing up too, so awesome. Come on,
Yeah,
girl.
we're good.
Lulu,
Well, there is a
get over
delay
here.
in the chat as well. So, yeah.
Right.
Okay, so it's 10 after 6. I'd say that's a record for us, and we're all here.
That actually is a good record.
Yes.
Yeah, so only thing is I wish I could see the chat. Give me 1 minute. I need to figure that out.
While she's doing that, and before we start, anybody know what Sunday was?
Can I guess? Even though you already told me.
Nope.
Ah.
Do you know what Sunday was, Susan?
No, I don't.
Oh. Sunday was the anniversary of the Challenger explosion.
Oh, I did see that. Yes, because a lot of
Lulu,
people
get her.
remembered where they were, and
Yep. Where were you?
I was in a classroom. I was in 2nd grade.
I was going to say, most of us were in school here.
Yeah.
You know you weren't. You were. No. Okay. Your Sunday was the anniversary
above
of
me.
the Challenger explosion. I think I was. I know I was in school watching it.
What grade were you in?
Would have been kindergarten.
I was going to say you had to be. I was in 5th or 6th grade, so you had to be in kindergarten.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know I was in 2nd grade, and I remember watching it. It was the same, actually, and the weird thing is it was the same week that we had an earthquake.
Oh, I remember that one too.
Yeah.
Because I was home with Mom.
You were home with Mom, yeah. we were taking a spelling test. I kind of remember more clearly that for some reason, because I thought it was weird that happened, and then the Challenger blew up all in the same week. And I remember one kid in my class thought that it was the janitor trying to dig up the school. I don't know. Because we were in the basement. Our second grade classroom was. But anyway, we're all here now. We're good to go. I can see the chat. So if there's any questions, we can get started. So how was your guys' week?
Pretty good.
Anything interesting happen?
Not really.
I've been following the Ethan Crumbley case, or his mother's case, which we'll touch on briefly at the end of this podcast.
Yeah, what you were telling me about that was just, that's crazy.
Yeah. We're definitely going to have to cover it in another episode once it's all settled and done. We can evaluate the trial, but I've been watching the trial. I didn't watch it today because I was busy, and I can't wait to go back and watch it later this evening, but anyway, that's kind of what I've been doing this weekend besides doing my normal streaming on Twitch. But, yeah, I've been playing a really interesting game on Twitch, so it has a really cute storyline, and me and the chat have been really getting into it, so that's what I've been doing all week. But anyhow, let's go ahead and get going with our podcast, because no one wants to hear about that. We want to talk about Columbine. The first part of the episode, we're going to talk about some of the survivors' family, or the people that died, their families, how they're coping. We're going to just kind of touch on some updates. And then the second half of the podcast, we're going to talk about the after effects with possible laws, administration, all that kind of, stuff. I did a lot of research on that. And so that's how the podcast is going to go. We're going to try and keep it. I haven't had time to watch the trial. Well, I really suggest that you watch it on YouTube if you want. Like I said, we're going to touch briefly towards the ends of the podcast, but yeah, it's really good. And yeah, take a look. There's lots of live streams on YouTube. There's Law and Crime, the local stations, Fox, they're all streaming it. And you can watch the replays. So, alrighty, let's get started. So, John, Christy, what do you know about what happened after the fact with some of these survivors, and what happened to them after the fact?
Well, one of the survivors, Brooks Brown, was actually investigated as the third shooter.
Okay.
Let's be honest. It wasn't just investigated. He was harassed. I'm sorry. That's the way I feel.
They kicked him out of the school. He could not graduate.
He graduated. He couldn't walk. He couldn't walk the stage with everybody else because it was too much. I can't remember if they said it was too soon, or he would be too much of a distraction. Something like one of those things. But it was just they completely they shunned him basically because. Oh yeah. And this it was just ridiculous.
And this was the guy who warned them about Eric Harris.
Before it happened.
The parents told them, look, this kid has threatened to shoot my son. You need to check this kid out. There was a search warrant issued. And then they investigated him as a third shooter.
Yeah, see, I didn't do any research on Brooks Brown, but I also knew that you guys would be researching Brooks Brown because you read the book. So I didn't really research him. So that, to me, that's very interesting.
Like I said,
but also
reading
go ahead.
That book is a very good read. I wish we could take the time and just read the whole book through the stream.
It made me mad. It still just thinking about it makes me mad.
Just from his perspective, it gives a very good point of view.
What's interesting to that, though, is I wonder, though, and I'm not saying it's right, but let's also keep in mind that back then, they knew nothing. I mean, there were school shootings, but nothing to the extent of Columbine.
Columbine.
Columbine put that kind of thing on the map for sure.
Yeah, so much rumors, with the long jackets that they had on, they were part of them, And
the trench coat mafia.
Stuff,
oh my goodness.
A lot of the stuff that initially came out was incorrect. So, I mean...
Yeah, they wanted to blame it on music and blame it on this and that and the other one. It was just two boys that had a lot of mental health issues that were not really being monitored at home. That parents missed a lot of signs, and it was just awful. So much went wrong. There were so many people that dropped a lot of balls, and that's what happened.
And like I did research on some of the school shootings that happened beforehand. Nothing was like Columbine, where they just purposely walked into school and just randomly shot kids and planted bombs. I mean, this was planned.
Like they've been planning it for months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this set the standard for what schools go through now.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that. But let's go ahead and talk about some of other survivors, and like what they have, like even at school. DeAngelis, the principal of the school, he wrote a book. I do not remember the name of the book. I did not read the book, but I watched several interviews. And they could not, couple little things, they couldn't serve Chinese food in their cafeteria anymore because that's the food that was served on the day of the shooting.
Wow.
And it triggered the survivors.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say that sounds dumb, but I understand that now.
And
Triggers memories, yeah.
Students wouldn't participate in fire drills. They couldn't show war movies. They banned camouflage clothing because first responders wore it that day. And yeah, DeAngelis, he surrounded himself with those kids, and he had his own issues. He said his weight dropped. He went to the emergency room several times because he thought he was having a heart attack. It was actually anxiety. And he was also
fair.
at the time discouraged from getting mental health treatment because they thought he'd be unfit for duty. But he did get the help that he needed.
I just Googled the book, and it says the title of it is "They Call Me Mr. D: The Story of Columbine's Heart, Resilience, and Recovery."
Right.
But
and he was determined to stay as an. I cried when I read the interview, and there was a little thing from the Today Show during the 20-year anniversary, and they were talking about stuff, and he was determined to stay at the school until all the kids that were affected by this tragedy, include all of the kindergartners, until they all graduated. And he did. And he retired in 2014.
Wow.
Yep.
And to this day, he still talks to communities. A lot of survivors, a lot of the families who's had kids that died, they all are doing things. Whether they're working as therapists or they're going out and they're doing talks. A lot of them. There's been some that have founded the Rebels projects, and it connects mass shooting survivors with each other. So they have a support system.
Yeah.
Which that is one of the rare benefits of what happened is these people that have lived through this through Columbine are going out and saying this is what happened. We survived it. We want to help. If that kind of thing happens again, we want to show point out the signs and what to look for and help the people that have lived that have gone through that go through it again. If they go through it, we want to help them get through it and thrive and stuff. And I think that's great.
And they actually, and some of the other shootings that happened after Columbine, they dispatched people that survived Columbine to those schools to help families deal with it.
Yeah, I know they met with the Parkland shooters.
Yes.
Or the survivors, I'm so sorry, the survivors.
Yeah.
And and a lot of survivors have wrote books. You can go on,
Yes.
Amazon. I couldn't even name them all, but so many have written books to help themselves cope. A lot of them have talked about. I listened, and I didn't have time to re-listen to it because I listened to it a couple years ago. But they did a podcast. Someone did a podcast. Cannot remember her name. I was hoping to view it or see it again or listen to it again. I just did not have the time. But it was called Confronting Columbine. And if anyone is interested, check it out. You can find it on Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere you get your podcast. And it's really good. And, she met with several different survivors, people that were affected. And, she said that she talked about survivor's guilt. And, why did she survive, but yet other people didn't? And, she talked about how now that she is a parent, sending her kids to school was a trigger.
Oh, I bet.
And other, other survivors have said the same thing. They don't want to, one mother said that she prays when she drops her kids off to school. She prays, as they go into the building. And then is just thankful when she picks them up.
Yeah.
So, and hearing about other shootings is triggers for them.
Oh,
So did you guys research any other survivors, or do you know of any other survivors?
There was one survivor who was shot and was actually paralyzed. I can't remember his name, but he was in a wheelchair, but he said that he wanted to be able to walk across the stage because he graduated that year, I believe, and he was able to walk across the stage.
Yeah.
I mean, he told everybody, I will walk across the stage. I'm not going to let this shooting bring me down. And he did walk across the stage and get his diploma.
That
and he
must be Sean Graves.
I think that's
who it is.
He was shot 6 times.
Yeah.
Wow.
And but he also talked about how things are a struggle. He has a daughter, and she doesn't understand why whenever they go somewhere, he points out exits every time they go somewhere new. He is obsessive about listening to police radio traffic. So.
And what's crazy is everybody knows Columbine is in Littleton, Colorado. What else happened in Littleton, Colorado about maybe 15, 20 years later? Which probably the theater shootings.
Yep.
That had to bring back bad memories for people too.
Yeah.
Like, here we go again.
That Cracker Jack was shot at that theater.
Yeah, 6 times. That's crazy. And I mean, good for him that he was able to overcome that and walk again. He did not want Columbine, the shooters, to define. He didn't want that to be his defining moment. So for him to overcome that, definitely. And so, and then there was another survivor. I did not write down his first name, but his last name was Eubanks, and he actually was addicted to drugs. He got hooked on them. Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you, Minecraft Twitcher, for coming from my Twitch channel. I appreciate ya. Welcome in. And, so, he got hooked on painkillers, and because he was prescribed them from, when he was recovering from his injuries, but he actually overcame that. He watched his best friend, Corey DePuter, and he died. He was shot in the hand and knee himself, and he watched DePuter die beside him. And, so he overcame that addiction. He was addicted for about 10 years. And he used that, though. And he started sharing his story for, beating substance abuse. He went into the community. And then he did unexpectedly die. No, I thought I wrote in my notes when he died. But yeah, he actually died, I think I want to say 2019. But yeah, it was really sad. Because when I read that, I'm like, oh, that's so sad.
Yeah.
Connie Sanders, her dad was the only teacher that was killed. She's the only adult that was killed, really. And he was the basketball coach. He actually was, one of the heroes during the shooting. And she said that it motivated her to become a therapist who actually works with violent offenders because she wants to prevent future tragedies. So, a lot of people...
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And lawmakers in 2019, they passed a resolution to rename a stretch of the highway the David Sanders Memorial Highway in honor of that Columbine teacher, which I thought was really, what a legacy.
That is. That's awesome.
And they have the memorial outside the high school with all the victims.
Yes. That was another thing in my notes that I, hadn't got to yet, so you beat me to the punch.
But they tell you if you go visit it, make sure you visit it not during school hours because they get real antsy when people show up and visit during school hours. I did.
Well, wouldn't you?
And there was a YouTuber that showed up during school hours, and the cops asked him, "Can you please leave and visit during non-school hours, please?"
Yeah. And the thing is, too, and we'll get into the memorial, it also brings out a lot of morbid curiosity people. But we'll talk about that in a minute. There's a couple other things I wanted to touch on.
Now,
maybe not. Do you guys have anything else about any of the other? I mean, honestly, we could spend 2 or 3 hours talking about survivors. I know the Scott family, they do a lot of speaking engagements. There was a movie that you guys talked about last week.
yes.
The movie about Rachel Scott, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but that whole family, and the mother of Rachel Scott actually took the time to talk to Sue Klebold. And I watched her talk about it.
She goes around and talks all over the country.
Yeah.
But once again, the Harris family has completely disappeared.
But when the mom talked about, meeting Sue Klebold, what did you say? And she talked about forgiving. And you know what she did? It was going to make me cry. But she asked her, who was your son before Columbine happens? And that just broke my heart. Because, we talked last week about, a lot about the Harris and, Klebold boys. And what led to all that. But to her, and she gets a lot of hate. She got hate for coming out and speaking. Even though,
Oh, yeah.
But to me, that was her son. No matter what, she lost her son, her baby boy. To her, that will be her baby boy. It'll always be her baby boy. And she has stepped up and said that he did do this. She's not excusing it at all. But she had a loss too. And so for me, just watching that.
And I think Rachel's mother asking that question, who was your son before the shooting, is so important because for the rest, for time and all eternity, those 2 boys are going to be remembered solely for that. No one's going to remember what their childhood was like. That's more than likely why the Harris family has gone so far underground you couldn't find them with a metal detector. I bet.
And you know what?
Right.
I kind of don't blame them. I really don't. I don't know them. I don't know why. I don't need to know why. Honestly, I get it.
If I was in that family, I'd be terrified to be, for anybody to tell me because that would it'd be too much.
Yeah.
Now I want to read this. This is dealing with the legal aspect of after Columbine.
Okay,
after the mass.
So if we talked to all, does anyone have anything else to say about any of the survivors, or does anyone in the chat have any questions or comments? If not, we'll move on to the second half where we are going to talk about now, the aftermath of, this is more not as personal, I guess. I mean, it doesn't look like it, so go ahead.
Yeah, I think we can move on to what John was talking about, the legalese and stuff and everything.
Yeah. Okay. After the massacre, many survivors and relatives of deceased victims filed lawsuits. Under Colorado state law at the time, the maximum a family could receive in a lawsuit against government agency was $600,000. Sorry, the print's real small. Most cases against Jefferson County Sheriff's Office and school districts were dismissed by the federal court on the grounds of government.
And he also, the picture, there he is. I can hear you now, honey.
I can't hear you.
I can hear you fine, Mr. Blaze. I can see you just fine. I told you. I don't know.
Go ahead.
You're not.
Can you hear me?
Yep. I don't know
Okay.
why
There
you
you go.
drifted out.
But a lot of those cases were dismissed because of government immunity. The only there was the Sanders family is the only one that sued and actually got $1,500,000, and that was because, and this is the questions I have, but it set a precedent. I understand, this is the first time it ever happened, but still, the reason they got their money is because it was deemed determined that the police didn't let the ambulance go in, even though they didn't get to Steve Sanders till 2 hours after they committed suicide. And the cops knew they committed suicide, but they didn't let the ambulance go in and get to him. And they said that they probably could have saved his life if they did.
Yep.
Well, talking about that, after Columbine, a lot, they poured through. I mean, I showed evidence last week from a document where they investigated and researched. I don't know why John keeps disappearing.
I don't know either.
I'm still here.
Okay.
I mean, we can hear you in every. Well, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I'm still
Susan?
here.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right, but they went through because before something happens, you don't know. They never expected anything like this, And after Columbine, and this was back in, I think this document was made in like 2021, or it's a video. It's called "Echoes of Columbine" that you can look and check out on YouTube. That's where my
Ooh,
notes
I'll have to
came
watch
from.
that.
Columbine has inspired over 80 copycat attacks. And, they've done a lot of research, and they said that, for a lot of crimes, like you can profile,
Yeah.
Okay, who did? They said profiling doesn't work for school shooters. And,
Because every case is unique, I bet.
Well, I mean, yeah, and... even with the Harrison Klebold, unless you could be reading their journals, you had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, there were signs that that maybe, but they also came out with some statistics, and it said 25% of school shooters have a mental health diagnosis, 61% have mental health issues. So they may not be diagnosed, but they still have mental health issues. And 90% have suicidal ideations. And and they've compiled lists of pre-attack behavioral indicators. Some of those include the journaling. All of these shooters are pre-planning this months, if not years, in advance.
Yep.
Yeah.
And according to the FBI, which is where this Echoes of Columbine came, this video came from the FBI.
Yeah.
They have determined, because after Columbine, they went to where everything could get you suspended. If you finger pointed a gun at somebody,
Yep.
you were suspended or expelled or what have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the movie Bowling for Columbine, they actually talk about how a lot of schools after the Columbine shooting went way over the top with punishments and stuff. Like there was I'm trying to think, there was a case of a kindergarten kid had like a chicken tender, a chicken finger, and he had bitten pieces of it off that made it look like a gun. Somehow he chewed it off to where it looked like a gun. And because of that, he got suspended. He was in kindergarten. He was 5.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, if he were in high school and, and like you said, if he had like the mental, he was 5. He was, oh, neat. Come on, folks.
But they didn't know. And
Exactly.
but
Columbine was whole new,
people were scared.
dark new. Yeah.
But are we getting?
Thanks,
Are we
Minecraft.
getting?
1 minute. Thanks, Minecraft Butcher. He's back. Go ahead. I'm sorry, John. Go ahead.
But are we getting too relaxed? Again, yes, we've got. Because my problem, I have 3 kids, and when Johnny was 6 years old, I was sitting at home, and my ex was at the doctor's office, and my son came home, and usually when he came home from school, he'd want to jump on the video game system with me, but he was acting like really weird, like something was wrong, and he went in his bedroom, was real silent, just wasn't himself. Well, then I get a phone call from my ex saying Johnny's going to be a little bit off. I was like, why is that? Oh, because some kid threatened to shoot him today at school.
Jeez.
I was like, what? I was like, now what's the school doing about it? Oh, nothing. They said it's taken care of. Well, I called the school. I was like, what are you doing about it? Oh, nothing. I was like, what do you mean nothing? Well, we called the parents. They don't have guns at home. I was like, did you go to their house to see if they had a gun at the home? No. They just told us they didn't have guns. Just relax. I was like, this kid threatened to shoot my kid.
Well, and that's interesting that you bring that up. Because there is a case, and before I get there, what FBI said can help is having a threat assessment model, which combines the police, mental health organizations, and the schools, and the police to all work together. So when something happens, or, say that incident happened, John, okay? That kid threatened to shoot someone.
Yeah.
They can all collaborate to indicate, okay, what is, the threat assessment? What does this kid need that he's not getting? Does he need some mental health treatment? Does, if he was older, does he need juvenile services? Or does he need to have charges?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that kid at 6 needed that, but that is what FBI said should work. Now, does it always work? No, it doesn't. But that's what they're saying, because they're saying that zero tolerance, it doesn't work.
Right.
So the kid that said, "Oh, I'm going to shoot you," you know what? Expelling him or suspending, it doesn't work. So they're trying. They have apps now. I don't know. I mean, it's not everywhere, but I know in our state they have. I don't know if it's a state or a county. I think it's a state. It's called Safe to Say, and it's an app.
Yeah.
And you can call or text if you see or you hear something, that you don't have to leave your name. But on the other hand of that, I will tell you, my kid actually, they had an assembly about it. And then she actually put something in, they called the app, just to, and made up something just to see if it worked. I'm like,
oh my goodness.
Someone told her to do it. She's very susceptible to other people. And I'm like, no. But
Well, I ended up actually calling the state, school board or whatever, and they said the school handled it completely wrong. They basically said an assessment should have been done.
Well, and
like
that's that threat assessment.
Law enforcement, CPS should have been notified, went to the house and searched and did an assessment.
For sure.
But also another thing is a lot of times they won't tell you everything, or they can't tell you everything.
Especially with a minor, they can't release their name.
Exactly. A lot of times you can figure it out because your kid will tell you, but a lot of times, and so you're right, there are still things that need to work on, but then also on the flip side of it.
Well, it was funny because we went to, they had something at his school, And we went there. Johnny pointed him out to us. And this kid looked, I mean, you could tell something was like not all there with him.
Oh
He
boy.
was very, very, like, he was by himself. Johnny was like, that's the kid, Dad. That's the kid, Dad. I'm like, Johnny, shut up. Shut up.
But it's the other, extent to that. Do we want more invasion in our lives? The whole gun issue is a hot topic that I'm not necessarily going to get into right now. I'm not well versed in it to have a discussion about it. But I mean,
that's funny too, because one of the parents from Columbine actually testified before Congress stating that it's not a gun problem.
Right.
You can take away all the guns you want, but these kids are still going to somehow figure out a way to get the guns to do this.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if someone wants to do something like that drastic, that diabolical, they're going to figure out a way how to do it. It's like with people talking about, criminals getting, a criminal is a criminal. They're going to figure out how to get a gun, and they're not going to go a legal way about it because they might already have a record or whatever.
Because let's face it, Dylan and them, they weren't 18 and they still got these guns.
Yeah. My thing is, and we're seeing this like right now, as I alluded, there is a case going on right now that could have serious ramifications in some of our liberties, I guess. The Ethan Crumley case. The parents are getting charged with manslaughter because their kid was, a school shooter. He killed, I believe, 4 kids. Do not remember how many he injured. I haven't researched that case yet. Like, we're not doing it. We will eventually cover it, probably. But it's an interesting case because they charged the parents. And I struggle with that. Were they negligence? Perhaps. I haven't seen all the evidence yet. I mean, there are things that they coulda, shoulda, did. But did the kid have warning signs? I mean, they say that the kid was crying out to help for his friends. But after raising my relatives, I can tell you that things aren't always what they seem.
No,
and,
that's for sure.
I look at it and, could he just be saying that? He said he was hearing voices. Well, guess what? One of my relatives that I raised said that they were hearing voices, and they weren't hearing voices. They were doing it for attention. I'm not saying that happened because I don't know. I wasn't there. Not saying that happened. But say my relative, who I had legal guardianship of at the time, and I'm not saying that they would ever do this, but what if they had been in that situation and I got charged? When I did everything I could, I was strict. Of course, would not let my kids have a gun either. But
I think it's a case. But I think it's a case by case thing. It depends.
But manslaughter. I think there's other charges that they could have brought on them, in my opinion. We can disagree. There's no right or wrong answer.
If the gun that was used came from their house and it was their gun, then yes, they should be charged.
But what if it was locked up?
What?
What if it was locked up?
Doesn't matter. They still should be charged. I honestly believe that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I just, for me, I guess it's the government coming in and telling us what we can and can't do. I don't know. And that's it. But that's the thing with this ramifications of this case.
Yep. So, and that's the thing. We have to be careful with this kind of thing because that can be a really slippery slope of,
Yeah.
Who has access and.
What if your kid did something else? So every time your kid does something, I my kid did stuff, and I was too. And the mental health services aren't always there, and that's why I talked about these threat assessment models.
Mm-hmm.
Not every place has them. I will tell you, I called the cops one time. I won't talk about the situation necessarily, what happened, but at the time I was a kinship parent, and he told me to beat their what, and I'm like, I'm not allowed to spank them. They're in the system, which you're not allowed to spank kids that you
Nope.
foster.
Yeah, because
So I'm like, a cop is telling me this. I'm like,
Yep.
I called
And
you
there you
guys
go.
for help. And and I'm like, well,
and he recommends corporal punishment of all things, and you're like, that is not acceptable in my case. I'm sorry.
yeah, and I mean, it wouldn't help anyway. But I mean, that's a story for another day. But like, I mean, so I do think that these threat assessment models would be really good if you could get all of the systems working together. I really do believe that. John, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
I can hear him. I just can't see him anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I think that's the key. I mean, will we prevent another attack by using these threat assessment models? No, but I bet we could definitely wean them down. I think there is a serious mental health crisis in this country, especially after COVID. Anxiety has gone up. Suicide ideations have definitely are gone up. And I mean, I think the police and schools and mental health, they all do need to work together, and that doesn't happen. It does not happen a lot. I know.
No.
If you want proof that there's a mental health crisis in this country, go on any social media platform and see some weirdos. I mean, there's people. It's like you seriously need help, Jesus, something, because these people. I mean, it's like they've lost touch with everything.
Yeah.
And like, even touching on something, we're gonna kind of divert a little bit, but one of the things too that they discussed in this FBI documentary is one of the big issues that Columbine had is that law enforcement wasn't trained to go after the shooter. They secured that scene and waited for SWAT to arrive because those were the protocols then. Back then, before Columbine happened, you secured the scene and waited for SWAT to arrive. And
because Columbine was completely new, and I mean, nobody knew what to do because I mean, it was rare. I mean, school shootings happened, but it wasn't like it is now.
And it wasn't this magnitude. The magnitude of this one had never happened before, and so they were trained to go by protocols. If they had gone in, the lives in the library probably could have been saved. It's not the cops' fault. I mean, but now they have protocols in. They have police officers that are trained, called rapid response teams, and they just go in and they keep going until they get to the shooter. Now, unfortunately, in Uvalde, that did not occur, which was another classroom shooting that just happened last year, I believe.
Yep.
And I can't say too much, but I remember they waited, and they should not have waited at all.
And see, that's another thing. They got all these metal detectors in these schools, and these kids are still getting these guns in. So is it really? I mean, if they're gonna do it, they're gonna do it.
But you also think about money too.
Yeah.
Do they maybe not work right? I don't know. I know.
I think there was a shooting. There was a kid in Florida. I was watching on YouTube. They had body cam footage of it. The officer, it showed the kid. He had a guitar case. He went to the bathroom, changed, took the shotgun, shot one bullet through the door, then went through the thing. And they noticed there was they had an officer there. Well, he responded and it showed his body cam. They got him in the library, and he just said, "Oh, well, I used to go here," and they found the shotgun in the hallway, but he still got it past the metal detectors because it was in a guitar case.
Do you know why you keep disappearing, John?
No,
Okay, because you keep
we can hear you, but I mean, your camera keeps going out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Now classrooms, they have made changes. Maybe not necessarily at all, but you know, people keep trying to do. You know, they now have classroom doors locked from the inside instead of the outside.
Yep.
They have more security guards or police officers in schools. And they have active shooter drills. This to me is when we were in school, we didn't do active shooter drills.
No, we didn't, and it blew my mind when I started hearing about this on like the news and stuff about active shooter drills in schools, and I'm like, this was not a problem from when we were kids. I mean, if it's crazy that they have to go to these metal detectors, and these kids have to have like the see-through backpacks and security guards and active shooter drills. And there's actually, like I heard, there are like the private schools, obviously, because there's no way a government funded school would do something like this and let like severe case. But there are some of these private schools now for like the last, I think, 10, 15 years that have got their teachers to sign up for firearms and let them pack heat in the school.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm all for it. I am all for it.
And they're like, if you want to guarantee your kid's safe in our classroom, this teacher packs a gun, so she or he will save your kid's life. And I just hope that the teacher doesn't, or the kid doesn't like honk the teacher off, because and they have the wherewithal to not do something crazy. But
yeah,
I think it's a good idea, actually, because it's just, these school shootings are just getting more prevalent, and it's great. It's just absolutely insane.
It should be kept in their desk and locked.
Yep.
And the teacher has the key.
For me, I mean, I think active shooter drills are important. But then, like, for the younger kids, how is that affecting them mentally?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't.
The problem is, it's the whole school shooter thing is becoming more of a norm. So the school active shooter drills have to become more of a norm, and that is it's so sad and it's scary. But I mean, when it's becoming a reality, it's just, I mean.
But how much of this is making our kids' anxiety even more? I don't
even have kids. It makes me anxious, and I'm like, good God.
I mean, like I said, I'm not saying that we should have them, but man, I can't imagine having to do an active. I've never done an active shooter. I know nowadays they say that you should, when you go somewhere, make sure you have an exit, and they're right, you should. But I don't want to live like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a child of the 70s and 80s, and the last big scary thing that we had to drill for up to high school was the severe weather stuff, like tornado drills. But when I was in grade school, we were still doing, because it was Cold War still, we were like the duck and cover in case of nuclear attack, which the more I think about it, the older I get, I'm like, they were just, making us kindling because we were ducking under wooden desks for a nuclear bomb. Thanks a lot. But, you do what you can.
Yeah, I remember we always had fire drills and tornado drills. And honestly, that scared me because we lived in a trailer. This is a little side thing, just a little bit of humor, but we had a thunderstorm. I don't know if it was a tornado. I think it was just a tornado watch. But we had thunderstorms. And it came across the screen, because they'd come across the screen. And
quit laughing at her.
Me and my mom, I think John was asleep. I don't remember, but my dad was away. And, the school always told you that if you lived in a trailer, you had to get out and go in a ditch. Like, you just could not stay in a trailer. And so I'm
you
like,
know why?
It's raining. It's thundering, and I'm trying to convince my mom to go to the front of the park and go in this ditch. She's like, it's lightning out. It was only a tornado watch. It wasn't even a warning. But I was so scared from all the things at school they said. So I can imagine what I would have been like if we had to do these, drills.
Have you ever seen the remnants of a house trailer after it got hit by a tornado?
I don't want to be honest with you. I'm
When
glad that
I
I
was-
don't live in a trailer.
When I was 5 or 6 years old, my aunt lived in a house trailer in Vigo County, Indiana, and she and my grandmother were in the biggest town close to us. They were out shopping, and there was a tornado, and it hit my aunt's trailer, and I was being babysat by some friends of our family, and the girls that were babysitting me and my brother got a call that my aunt's trailer got hit, and there was nothing left. I mean, it was just like the floor part. And everything else was just, I mean, it looked like someone had thrown 3 grenades in there and it went like that, just toast.
Yeah.
I barely remember my childhood, but I remember that because everyone was freaking out. And when my aunt came to see if there was anything salvageable, the answer is no, there was not. And that stuck with me. I'm 48. I'll be 49 in July. And that stuck with me till this day. And I'm like, and I've actually talked to my significant other about us possibly moving into a house trailer. And I think that's why he is not, because he knows what it's like to be in there. And he's like, I'm not really, cool for that. I'm like, and I'm starting to get it because the older I get, I'm like, I don't want to have to and the whole thing. I do remember you were talking about them telling you if you live in a trailer to get outside and go in a ditch. What if there's no ditches around? What are you supposed to do then? Wait for, like Dorothy Gale in Kansas. I mean, good grief.
We had a conversation with my dad, and he always said, if there's a tornado, we're just going to go in the hallway, and the trailer's just going to get knocked over. I never believed him. But anyway, back to Columbine. Like I said, I can't imagine having to go,
I can't imagine being a kid nowadays and having to go through active that would just, I mean, I already have problems with anxiety and depression. That would just make me like a nervous wreck all the time.
Yep.
I mean, just the thought that you have to practice in case someone does that. And with things the way they are now, it's like, what the actual heck? This is crazy.
Yeah. The last thing, I'd say about Columbine, they have had their 20th anniversary. And during that time, the schools in that state were on high alert, and they even closed because there was a woman who had a morbid curiosity about the shooting, and there was threats, and they said that she was coming. So they shut.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
They closed them, and they did find the woman. She was dead. So they found her like 50 miles away from the school. But, you were talking earlier, John, about how people go to visit, this memorial, which, that's good. They should pay respects for the 13 individuals that lost their lives. But there you also have these people that go because they want to see the site and be like these boys that did the shooting.
Flipping gremlins. That's what I call people like that, gremlins, because you're just being a ghoul at that point. That, I think they were cool. You don't even know. You have no idea what was going through their heads. B, just because you think it sounds cool. Really? Ask the people that survived that how cool they were. I understand they had, mental health problems, but they caused a lot of mental health problems too. I mourn and I weep for their families. Yes. And it's good to see you back. But you're back now, and that's fine. But, I mean, these people that want to emulate Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris, they, it's like you really need your head examined. This is not something to emulate. This is not a goal. No. Come on. Get please.
Yep. I agree. Well, I think that is about it for Columbine. We're going to do something different next week. We've been shooting a few things around, I think, and so you'll have to come back next week, same time, same channel. If you have any comments, let us know, or any questions, or any cases that you want to see us cover, please comment below, and we will definitely take a look at them. I like researching new cases that I haven't heard of before. Like the stream. It helps us push it out to other people. I really appreciate everybody that came, everybody that commented. Brownsfan 1990, thank you so much. And thank you so much, Minecraft Twitcher. I so appreciate you coming to the stream today. Appreciate you very much. I'll see you on Twitch soon, I'm sure. Thank you, Christy, for joining us this week.
No problem. I love being here.
Yeah, and John, wherever you disappear to,
He keeps popping in and out.
He just keeps, popping up and down like one of those moles. On the mole whomper things.
The whack-a-mole.
Yeah,
Boom,
whack-a-mole.
there it is.
But anyway, we really appreciate you very much. We'll be here next Thursday, same time, same channel, and we're going to say goodbye. Bye.
Have a good evening. Bye.
Okay, why?
That case I was telling you about, possibly for next week, if you want to, no pressure. It's really like hooked me through the brain. That girl's name was Vera Ann. I'll have to look it up, but her first